Hey boys and girls, welcome to another super exciting, outrageous toy review. Today we're taking a look at some Thundercats toys we got at a yard sale.
Yeah, now, not all these figures are complete. A lot of them don't have the weapons or the helmets and things like that, but that's what happens when you find things at a yard sale. So let's just go through the figures and kind of go through the, our memories of Thundercats a little bit. So why don't we start off with Lion-O. He was the hero. If you guys don't know anything about Thundercats, it's an older series now, and
right.
I think the 2000 series didn't. When did that come out? 2011 or 10, yeah. Didn't do too hot, I don't think, unfortunately. But Thundercats was a series that was one of my favorites back in the day. I loved Ninja Turtles, Transformers, G1, He-Man, the Masters of the Universe, and Thundercats. That was a big one for me. And star of the show was Lion-O. And what was cool about Lion-O is he actually came with a claw shield, he came with Sword of Omens, which we don't have, but he did come with this, which was a pack-in, it's a battery, and the main figures, the hero and the main villain, Mumm-Ra, their backside actually has a little thing, and you can put this in, and the eyes would light up, which is really cool. Yeah, so that's Lion-O. He was a cool figure, voiced by Larry Kenney, which I actually got the opportunity to do an interview with.
The main bad guy here actually has two different versions. Mumm-Ra, when he's like kind of chilling in his pyramid, he wears this red robe and he looks like a mummy, and he does this incantation and transforms into this big hulking bad guy. But this figure never did him justice compared to the cartoon. No. The mummy figure looks great. But this guy just never quite looked as awesome.
On the show, he had a big flowing red, almost like vampire cape, which was really, really cool. And it was very flowing. And he did come with the sword of Plundar, I believe it was called.
Yeah.
He did come with that, which was cool. And he does have a headdress, which is missing. But they could have done a better job on him. And I think there was a later release. Some company actually did do a Mumm-Ra, which is much, much better. But yeah, sometimes, that's what you get. What was cool, although, this figure was not one of my favorites, most of these figures are really cool, which I really loved Panthro, and it's just a shame we don't have his nunchucks, because I loved his nunchucks. Yeah. They actually had a chain on it, which I thought was a really nice little detail, and Monkeyan as well had, he had a ball and chain,
right? Which
I always thought that was great because chains are such a breakable thing. It was cool that they would include something like that, and you had to be careful with it. Tigra came with a whip.
Yeah, it was like a little string.
A bolo whip. That was really cool. So the accessories and the figures were very well detailed, and they really were well represented to what they were on the show. And the figures were actually made by the notorious LJN company. But I think that this was the best thing that LJN company ever did, actually.
And one of the other features they had, like the Dungeons & Dragons line that LJN also made, is they all had this like battle feature where you'd push a lever on their back and they would slash their swords or swing their weapons around. And I thought that was extra fun with those guys with the chain weapons, because the nunchuck would whip around and
Absolutely.
stuff. That was great.
Yeah. Here we got Jackalman. He was cool. He came with a club, I remember, and he also originally came with a black sort of
like shoulder pad
thing, which was kind of cool. This weapon came with a slide, which we do not have. There was the trio, sort of Monkeyan, Jackalman, and Slide.
Slide was like a lizard man.
Slide was a lizard man. Over here we have Ratar-O, who he was. It's sort of like there were sort of ranks to the characters. Like Jackalman and Monkeyan were sort of like the lower level peon henchmen guys. Mumm-Ra was the ultimate villain. Ratar-O was kind of somewhere in between them in his ranking. Yeah, he was kind of like a lieutenant almost. And he was a cool character. He had a spaceship on the show, and he had little Sais that always reminded me of Raphael Sais on Ninja Turtles.
This guy's called Hammerhand, and I think they were called Devastators, or I forget, they had like a subgroup. There were a couple of these weird guys.
They were the Berserkers.
That's it. It was the Berserkers. Very good.
Whew.
Yeah, and there were a couple of these unusual guys that had like mechanical type body parts.
There was one guy
that spun around.
There was one guy that had a wheel on the bottom.
Yeah.
There was one guy that spun around. There was him, and there was a blue dude who would like clamp his arms together, and you could put another figure in him. I don't remember his name, but the Berserkers were really cool. And the Berserkers, I believe, were introduced in the Thundercats movie. A lot of people don't remember that there was a Thundercats movie, which came in the middle of the series. It was a made-for-TV 5-part thing, which I had always wished that there was a Thundercat movie in the theater, but I don't think Thundercats was quite popular enough to get its own theatrical release like, you know, like Ninja Turtles and Transformers got. But the Thundercats made-for-TV movie was actually pretty cool, and they introduced the big thing was to introduce new toys. So they introduced the Berserkers, and they introduced the new Thundercats, which was Bengali, who is one of the more rare figures, that's a figure you're probably not going to find. If you ever see that in a bin, you better pick it up.
He's like a white tiger version
There was
tiger.
Bengali, Linkso, who was the blind guy, and then there was Mumm-Ra, who was sort of another variant to Chitara.
Right.
Yeah, which is another cool figure. What else do we got here? We got these little figures up here.
Yeah, there's a couple of these mini guys. I always thought they were really impressive because they were so tiny, and they actually came with their accessories. Like, he came with little size, this little Ratar-O back in the day. Now, they were super easy to lose, but I thought they were a lot of fun.
I actually have one of these at home. I have the Tiger figure, and he comes with a little miniature bolo whip, and it's a little whip. It's crazy that they would do that, but for a long time, when I was a kid, I think I got these confused because I think there was also Thundercat Erasers.
Okay.
And they were about the same size, and I think I remember I had something like a Panthro one or something, and I was trying to erase with one of these that's not an eraser, but I had another one that was an eraser, so I was like, why is this not working? You know?
Rub all the paint off his head.
Rub all the paint off his head. And then we have Snarf. There was this Snarf, and I think there was another Snarf.
That one was the pack-in with Lion-O.
Yes.
And then there was a slightly bigger articulated one
and he
that came up towards the end of the line,
Yeah, absolutely. So I think we went through...
We got a couple of the allies of the Thundercats down here at the end. This is Snowman of Hook Mountain. He was one of my favorites as a kid. I got him pretty early on in the line, and I just thought he was an awesome figure. He's so beefy.
What was cool about Snowman of Hook Mountain was that he had a cat that he would ride on, kind of like how He-Man has Battle Cat. He had Snow Meow, which I always wanted there to be a figure of. Now, I remember I've seen somebody do a custom figure of Snow Meow, and I always wanted to get that. But it was a shame back in the day that they didn't have that. Here we got Hachiman. He was also in the Thundercats movie, which was kind of cool, but he did have his own individual episodes as well. He was a character that would just pop up onto the show every now and then, and he had his own... He had his own blade, which was one of the only blades, I think, in the show, other than Mumm-Ra's, that could rival the Sword of Omens.
And he was really big into honor, and like, he originally, I think, was like against the Thundercats, but then Lion-O proved to be like worthy, and so then he joined them against Mumm-Ra.
Absolutely. And what was also cool, speaking of the swords, is that there was a Sword of Omens that they released. It was about like that, and the Eye of Thundera would light up, which was really cool. I wish we had that here to talk about. Cool. I know somebody that has one, but who we got here?
That's the Tusko Warrior.
Yeah, he was cool, and I see this is one figure that we found that actually has the correct weapon with it. So that's a pretty cool find.
There was a specific one of those guys, I forget, that had a specific name in the show. Termagar, okay. And I think it's Termagar. And then there were just generic ones like at their base, and they decided to make sort of the generic one as the toy.
This guy was the... No, I think that this is supposed to be the...
Is that him?
I think this is supposed to be him, but all the other guys look pretty much
like
similar. So yeah, I think that's all of them. Oh wait, my favorite figure of all is Tigra, actually. There was two different versions of Tigra, and these are actually the same version, but there's the young version of Tigra, and then there's the old version of Tigra, and I always felt that this one actually looked more like Tigra on the show, which is really cool. And I liked Tigra because he was kind of like a more mellow version of Lion-O. Lion-O kind of had problems.
He was a little impulsive.
And Tigra was very intelligent. He knew how to build things, kind of like how Panthro did. But Tigra was cool because with his whip, he could turn invisible. And, he was just always my favorite.
One of the most memorable episodes of Thundercats to me as a kid, like one that just kind of like burned into my brain, because I don't remember most of the plots, I just remember watching it. But there's one where he goes through this cave, and he gets older and older and older. I think it's like the Cavern of Time or something like that. But that one, like... I remember being worried for him. Like, that was one where the drama got to me as a kid, and I was like, oh my gosh.
And the only way, do you remember how they get him out of the cave?
Is it Chitara running really fast?
Yes, because Chitara can run so fast. She if you walk through the cave, you'll age so quickly that you could die if you spend your time, that you'll turn into a skeleton. But she's so fast that she runs out, grabs him, and runs back out.
Right.
So, cool stuff. Good memories, good times. Thundercats.
Whoa! Thanks for watching this super exciting, outrageous toy review. Make sure to like, subscribe, and check out the playlist for other videos from our flea market finds.